Good evening, folks. Andy Petraza here with Special Effects Academy. Apologies for the delay. I had a little bit of a problem joining, but looks to be resolved now. So with that said, quick sound check. Everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Testing, testing. People hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We got you, Andy.
Can anybody hear me?
How about me? I'm on the telephone.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Alrighty. Okay. Yeah, I was hearing some very weird sounds, so I wasn't sure. But now I can hear you guys, and you can hear me. We're all good. Okay, so bear with me one second while I get this thing started. Let me know when you can see the screen, folks.
Here, I can see it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right. Going to get started then. Thank you very much for joining us. Andy Petraza here with Special Effects Academy on the start of the week session for August 19th, 2018. Again, let's get back on track. So, usual agenda, the prior week, the currency strength meter, our fundamental announcements for the week, our major pairs analysis, any setups we see in progress, and we're looking now at the long-term account ledger. Not much change there. We had 3 trades that closed out this week that just ended. One of them was about a 225 pip loser, and the other 2 were about 150 pips in our favor. Due to the different pip prices in the pairs, we actually came about even. We lost, let's see, 667 against 641, about $25. So all in all, a negligible amount on the long term. And right now, we are all cash on that account. There are no open trades on the long-term account at this time. So we'll be looking for new entries this week that is just beginning. On the short-term account, we opened 17 trades. 14 of them were closed. 6 were winners, 8 were losers. The net pip loss was 51.3 pips. And based on the dollar amount, it was a negative 4.27% week. So one of our losing weeks, not too concerned. Again, we came out of a stellar week from 2 weeks ago. And the market has been doing back and forth. So we had some actually really good trades at the beginning of the week, and then it sort of went against us more towards the end. We do have 3 trades remaining open. They're open at this time. The market's already started up. These are, well, I'll actually cover that in the next slide. So the trades that we carried open over the weekend were a short on the USDJPY at our normal position size, a short on the pound dollar also at our normal position size, and a pound JPY short at half our normal position size. Those 3 trades were still open last time I checked about 15 minutes ago. Notes and opportunities for improvement. This was essentially a flat week from an account perspective. We consider it flat anything under 5% change in the account balance in either direction. So whether it's a winner or loser, below 5% is essentially flat. We did get trade signals, but they went in both directions. Some were winners, some were losers. That will happen sometimes. There was a lot of news-driven market moves, especially out of Canada with that fight they've got with the Saudi Arabians. And towards the end of the week, the U.S. and China alerted that they would be sitting down to renew the trade talks. So to the trade war, or it can be an escalation. There's really no knowing. But I would be very careful on dollar and yen trades this week as a result of those impending talks. So we'll keep an eye on that. And I already covered the open trades. We're moving on to the relative strength meter for this week that just ended against the prior week. So the week that ended on August 10th, we had the market move 2.82%, which is actually a huge volatility compared to what we've been getting, which was around the 1%. And then this week, you can see that the figure is showing 4.25% change. And you'd say, well, how can Andy say that the week was relatively flat when there was such movements? But this is a little bit deceptive because I do have gold and silver. If you look at what actually happened for the weekend, the darker the color, the more the movement, you can see that the Forex actually didn't move much at all. You can see the very pale blue and red in all the Forex. The heavy red is in silver and gold against the other currencies. So the currencies themselves did not move much, but silver took a huge hit. That was really the 4.25% hit was on silver. And gold took a slightly lower hit, but both metals did depreciate against every single currency out there. So the week, if we exclude bullion, if we exclude gold and silver, was well below the 2.82% that we had the week before. So again, the Forex really didn't move much. It just looks that way when you add gold and silver into the mix. On the fundamental announcements that we have for the week coming up, it's a very light week. There's not much going on. We've got the Reserve Bank of Australia's meeting minutes on Monday night. That will not be live traded. We have the inflation report hearings out of the UK, and that's at 6 a.m., and I actually do plan on trading that one. The inflation report out of the UK does have the potential to move the market quite a bit. And then we have the Canadian retail sales at 8:30. That one is probably not going to be anything good. We will have at 2 p.m. the monetary minutes from the Fed coming out of the U.S. same day, Wednesday at 2 p.m. That will be another live trade. So those two will be live traded. The inflation report out of the UK at 6 in the morning, and 2 p.m. the FOMC minutes on Wednesday the 22nd. And last but not least, we have the monetary policy meetings from the European Central Bank coming out on Thursday at 7:30 a.m. I will also not be trading those. So the ones I do plan on trading would be the inflation report out of the UK and the FOMC minutes out of the US, both of them on Wednesday. So invites for those will be coming out by Tuesday. And that said, we're going to be moving on to take a look at the daily charts. Does anybody have any comments or questions on what we've covered so far before we go ahead? Okay, and then I'll carry on. So we're yeah, go ahead.
Ask, do you normally trade gold and silver?
I am not hearing you. Can you repeat that?
Oh, do we normally trade the gold and the silver?
We do not. I do, however, so I keep an eye on those. So I do a little bit of trading on the bullion metals, but the margin just isn't there for you to trade unless you have a really huge account. There is no margin. Essentially, you're paying dollar for dollar.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on to the euro dollar, we see that this last week, especially the final 3 days, was a reversal into dollar weakness or euro strength, whichever way you want to look at it. And this may indeed reverse yet again, depending on the outcome of the trade talks between the U.S. and China. So well, it was actually a nice little bit of a move on the euro dollar, but in the grand scheme of things, looking at the daily chart, it's really not going to be too noticeable. It is just one of the regular retraces. As far as I'm concerned, this chart is still bearish, and I would expect the euro dollar to continue heading down. On the pound dollar, we see much the same, a little bit of a reversal, much smaller than what we see with the euro dollar. And again, the pound, for multiple reasons, has been really hard hit. So this is exactly what I would expect, that there will be retraces, but they will not be as deep as we can see in the other European currencies. So another one, I am in general bearish. Everything in the chart is bearish. But we'll look for the proper entries. And we do have an open trade on this one in that direction, trading it towards the bottom, which is one of our 3 open trades. So we'll see how that progresses. But medium term, I'm definitely bearish on the pound dollar. USDJPY has been flat for the last couple of weeks. Not that it hasn't had movement, and we've traded a bit of that here and there, but on the daily chart, it's really not moving. It's starting to go into a sideways pattern, so we'll take that into account. The chart itself is neutral, but starting to look bearish. So I'll be looking for entries, trading it down. Probably give us better odds than trying to go long on it. But again, we will trade whatever the signals tell us to trade. But my personal bias is this one is probably heading down in the short term. USD Canadian and the Canadian pairs are their own queer little animal these past couple of weeks with the issues I've already mentioned, the fight with the Saudis and the slipping oil price. Both of them have been weighing on the Canadian. It did do a massive weakening against the dollar for the last couple of weeks, I'm going to say, except for Friday. On Friday, it regained quite a good chunk of what it had lost in the prior weeks. So it actually ended the week pretty much where it started out the week. So which is good for the Canadian. It didn't lose any further ground. So we will keep an eye on all the Canadian pairs, but very carefully, as they are very susceptible to what's coming out of the news cycle as opposed to simply what's in the technicals. Moving on to the USD Swiss, nothing much to look at here. It entered a sideways pattern quite a while back. It's still trapped inside that sideways pattern. There is no indication really in which direction it is going to go. No inkling there. My personal bias, again, is that we're overdue for a correction towards the bottom, and that would be a really nice thing to trade for about 600 to 700 pips. So I'm very eagerly waiting for it to get a little bit of strength back into the Swiss, but it has not been forthcoming for many weeks now. So I'll continue waiting for it, but until I see the proper signal, the proper entry, that's all it's going to be. It's going to be me looking at it regularly to see if it's starting to look interesting. Aussie dollar, and we can see the same pattern as with the euro and the pound. The Aussie dollar weakening against the US, but the last 3 days of the week saw it do a bit of a retracement towards the old trend line. I don't think it's going to continue going much higher. I would dearly love it to go higher. This would be a spectacular trade to take it even halfway back to the top. But I haven't seen any signs of strength out of the Australian. So keeping an eye on it, but this is more likely to be a short than a long in the medium term. Kiwi dollar, if you blinked, you missed it because the chart looks pretty much identical to the Aussie dollar. And we can see the same uptick in the last 3 days of last week. The Australian and the Kiwi are sort of like twins separated at birth there when it comes to their currency and their economies. So more often than not, you're going the same difference here operating, and this is the one signal jump in. Aussie Canadian, we've already that gives us the opportunities trading in either direction, but more than the technicals, you have to be cycle to try to catch as it is happening. Euro Swiss, expecting Swiss strength, the euro on what it's been doing in a few weeks, but failed towards the end of the week. We actually got caught on the wrong side of one trade there, and it is heading back up at this time. Not sure how much strength it has to continue heading towards the top. I'll be keeping an eye on it. It does have a lot of room. It's got about, I'm going to say 600 pips. If it wants to go all the way back to the top of the chart, that would be a very nice position for us to harvest, but another one that will wait for the proper entries before we commit to anything. Euro pound, the pound continues to weaken against the euro with a few retraces along the way, but as you can see, it keeps following a nice little bit of a trend line there as it makes its way towards the top. It is heading towards a prior high, and I may trade it in that direction, but there's not a whole lot of pips there. The distance between where it ended the week and the prior high is about 60 pips, maybe a little bit less than 60 pips. So not giving us a lot of room there. However, this one could easily continue heading towards the top, even past that recent high. So it's one of my more, but another one that I'm going to be very careful to wait. EURJPY heading towards the bottom. It has broken out of a channel that it had been traveling across for quite a while now. It's broken out the bottom. At this point, I would probably expect it to do another trip towards the top of that channel as opposed to going even further down. It's simply the waviness of the euro and the JPY here. So on any sign of euro strength or any sign of yen weakness, or hopefully a combination of the two, this one is going to go straight back up to the 130 area, which is going to give a little bit more than 3 for the this could indeed be the cherry on top of the month of August, which has so far been performing quite well. Euro Canadian, again, Canadian pair. Anything can happen with the Canadian at this point, so we'll just have to wait for the news cycle to give us some sort of hint as to what might be in store. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. From a technical perspective, nothing much to say or see other than that we do see Canadian strength against the euro despite all the issues that have plagued the Canadian in the past couple of weeks. Pound JPY, again, this is nothing much to see here. We've taken quite a few pips out of the pound JPY over the last few months. Pound weakening, yen gaining strength, and we've been trading this one down as often as we can. It is still in that downward pattern, but it looks to have taken a little bit of a breather last week, and we really didn't see it go much further beyond where it started out the week. So another one we're going to keep a close eye on as the week starts, especially since we do have an open trade on it, trading it short, and a rather wide stop. So this one indeed may also turn out to be a great trade for the week, but it is too soon to tell. It's open, it's there, we'll be keeping a close eye on it. AUDJPY, more of a sideways pattern in what we're seeing with the Aussie versus the yen. It's in a rather wide channel of about 400 pips worth of a channel there. And it's towards the bottom of the channel right now. This is another one where I would expect the slightest news, negative news out of the yen or positive news out of the Aussie to make this one go back towards the top of the channel. So also high on my radar of opportunities. Euro New Zealand, this one has been pretty flat, pretty sideways for the last month or so. It did have an uptick a couple of weeks back and then quickly returned to the area of support indicated by the top of the channel, that solid red line at the top. And right now it is back in the channel just barely, and it is on all indicators still looking very neutral. So this one could go in either direction, as they all can, but from a technical perspective, it's not giving us a lot of indication as to which one is more likely. Pound Canadian, one of the better Canadian pairs. The pound weakness has helped the Canadian maintain its strength against the pound. Despite all the Saudi and oil issues, it is still heading towards the bottom. And indeed, this may be another one of our earlier CAD trades. If we do start trading the CAD, this one is going to be a likely contender. And that is it from a charts perspective. Does anybody have any questions on any of the charts, or need me to go back and take a look at anything? Okay. Then with that said, these are the setups that we see in progress right now. We have the USD pairs, as I mentioned. China and the US are back at the negotiations table. That may give us a little bit of opportunity to trade, mainly based on what's coming out of the news, not what's coming out of the technicals. The Euro pairs continue to give us nice opportunities in both directions, but my bias is still going to be on weakness. The pound pairs, they didn't have the worst week last week, but not even close to being out of the woods yet. I would expect to see more pound weakness before anything gets better. The Swiss, perpetually keeping that message there. It is at near historical high, and I am expecting a retrace back to the bottom of the trading range, but it is in no hurry to happen, so just have to wait it out. And of course, the CAD pairs, as I've said several times, oil prices slipped, adding insult to injury on top of the Saudi issue to an already bruised currency. And these are the currencies, so especially some of the crosses, Euro and the Australian, are going to be of a keen interest. And final words here, just a little bit of a note on how trading is like fishing. You have to know how to catch whatever fish are out that day. And the market is the same. Market is going to be shifting periodically, might not be every day, or it could be every day, but it is seasonal, and you'll see the market shifting, and you have to learn how to read the markets. That's going to allow you to use the proper systems to trade it. If you've been with me for any significant period of time, you do know that when the market starts changing, I start changing my systems and my approach to try to adapt to what the market conditions are. If you're going to do well as a fisherman, you have to use the bait and tackle that's suitable for what you're trying to catch. or what is biting at that point. If you get a bite by something that you're not prepared for, it's not going to end well. Good fishermen always know what is biting on any given day based on the season, the conditions, weather, the feeling on the line, everything like that. Beginners don't. But every master fisherman was once a beginner, so never forget that it's all a road. There is a roadmap, there is a path to get you where you want to go. You have to learn how to fish. It's much better than relying on somebody else to give you a fish or having to go out and buy one. But while you learn, hopefully with us, because we love having you here, please take our fish. We're happy to give you some fish while you're learning, as well as the education. So that's going to be it for me today. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Going once, going twice. Okay, then folks, that is going to be it for me today. I will get a video of this out later tonight and send, of course, the updates by email. And I look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow at noon when we start our first session of the week. Thank you very much for joining, and I'll catch you guys soon. Bye-bye.